today we're going to be going over single leg offensive finishes. So not the actual action of getting to the single leg itself, but what happens when you end up with a single leg, whether that's scrambling from half guard, whether that's switching off from a double leg to a single leg, or whether that's just simply snatching up a single. What do you do in that position, and how do you make sure to finish in the best way given your specific situation? So I'm going to be going over 3 concepts and then 3 finishes based off of those as well. So this first core concept, this core principle that I'm going to be talking about once you get in on the single leg is really an important one, because a lot of people, so often they get the single leg and they freeze and they freak out and they don't know what to do. Well, this is a concept that will give you some time for you to transition into the types of finishes that you need to do. So first thing that I do want to explain is, what is this person trying to do once you have the single leg? So if I have this single leg here against my opponent, this person is trying to get all of their weight onto this leg, okay? Boom. If all of their weight's on this leg, then I can no longer finish. And my goal is to get the weight that's on this leg to this leg, so that then I can go into my own finishes on this leg itself. So the first thing that I want to talk about here is, whenever you're in on a single leg, again, however you get into a single leg, you're always going to be moving forward. So you're never going to be moving backwards, and you're never going to be standing still here. Because this opponent wants to get my head down and his weight down. So whenever I'm in on the single leg, I'm in good position here, and I'm moving forward. Short steps at a time, always moving forward. Circling, moving forward this whole time. Now this second concept that I want to talk to you about being in on a single leg here is what I like to call the sunk cost principle. So many individuals feel like once they're in on the leg, they need to finish that leg attack. And oftentimes that'll end up with them in bad position, getting their head smashed in, getting guillotined, or just ending up flat on their face. And so it's really important to have some transitions planned for the variety of situations where your opponent is going to react in a way where you're not ahead of the game and you're not going to be in a position to finish. And it's really important that you don't commit to finishing if you're not going to actually be able to finish. So I want to go ahead and go through and talk about a few transitions that you can do. So one of these transitions is going to be when you're still on your feet, you have the single leg, and this person just has you out of position. And if you don't give up the single leg, you're going to end up in a really bad position. So what are some ways that you can negate ending up in bad position, or just simply giving up the single leg? Well, if this person is trying to get my head down and I'm not moving forward and I'm just in really bad position right here, all I'm going to do is let go of this leg and transition to an underhook and keep moving through my next set of wrestling offense. So head down, I'm in bad position. If I stay in on this leg and I try to finish, I might not be able to. So what I'm going to do is, as this person gets me out of position, I'm going to let go of this leg and I'm going to transition this arm from the leg to an underhook. And this can be a deep underhook or a seatbelt or a dog fight. A lot of folks call that in Jiu-Jitsu. Or it can be a shallow underhook. It doesn't really matter. But the whole concept here is that I recognize that I don't have the ability to finish because I'm out of position, and I'm transitioning to an area that still keeps me in good position against my opponent. So one more time, I'm in on the leg, this person starts to push down. Instead of struggling and ending up out of position, I'm gonna let go of this leg, come to this deep underhook, establish my head position, and keep moving forward. And then going into my to whatever I have prepared for from my underhook. So that last transition I showed is just one example of what you can do when you're still on your feet with that single leg. Well, many times when you hit that single leg, you're going to end up in bad position with your opponent over top of you. maybe you tried to scramble and you got out of position, or you got a little overzealous and you end up with your opponent sprawled on top of you. This is not a position where you should just sit around and keep trying to fiddle with the single leg, get to your feet, and that sort of thing. It's an area where you should be looking to transition to your next set of offensive capabilities. So here's one example of a transition you can do. So I'm in on the leg, and this opponent sprawls out on me, and I go to the ground with him right here. Now this is not great position for me. This is not great position for me right here. And more often than not, this opponent is going to get their hips back. They're going to sprawl out on me. They're going to end up going around, and I'm going to end up getting taken down. So one thing you can do is when this person starts to sprawl on you, is to transition to that deep underhook as well. So you go ahead and try to sprawl here. And I end up in a really strong position. I'm not finishing the single leg, but I'm in a strong position to continue and do some other offensive attacks here. This is a position, a dogfight position, which I'll go into in later detail another time, but just one example of how you can transition yourself out of a bad position when you're stuck on a single leg. So now that I got that out of the way, I do want to talk about some specific single leg finishes that you can do when you're in on a single leg, you're in good position, and you're moving this opponent forward. How do you go ahead and finish that takedown? Well, I'm going to be going through three sets of finishes here today. And this first one is a really simple one. Many of you probably have seen this or have drilled this before, but there are a few details I definitely want to point out, and it's what we often refer to as running the pipe here. So, we're in on a single leg with our opponent, and we're in good position. And what does good position mean here? Our hands are clasped, our back is straight, our head isn't down. If our head is down here, that is bad position. You're going to end up being under the guy. You're not too far away right here. You're in good position, his leg's in between yours, hands are clasped, head is up, my head is right in the sternum right here, and again, I'm always moving this opponent forward. So we're in this good position right here. We're moving our opponent forward. And now what we're going to do is called run the pipe. And a few details on running the pipe here. Our head is going to be really important, but so is the way that you're going to be moving your feet. A lot of people teach this by saying they're going to go ahead and snap a football, or they're going to go ahead and wind up and really try to bring this opponent down. But it's really the combination of moving this person forward and having rapid, quick movements with your feet at a downward angle that's going to go ahead and be successful in running this pipe. So we're here, back here. So we're here in this good position. We're moving our opponent forward here, and when we decide to run the pipe, pay special attention to my feet here and my overall body positioning. I'm going to be angling down with my whole body, including my head, but I'm also going to be circling in a semicircular motion with my feet. And I'm not doing one big step, but short, choppy steps. So I'm here, and I'm moving my opponent forward, short, choppy steps. Right here. And notice that I'm not falling with my opponent, okay? I'm not falling down with my opponent and getting into a scramble. I'm staying up, and I'm staying in good position this entire time. So, one more time here. Come here. I'm in on this single leg. I'm moving forward with my opponent in good position. I'm stabilizing myself, and I'm creating this downward pressure, downward at an angle, while I'm circling my feet in short, choppy steps. And I stay up right here. So that's what we call running the pipe. Running the pipe absolutely works on a variety of opponents, but a lot of times it's also used to set up your next finish, which I'll go ahead and get into here in a second as well.
Watching this video.
Yep. So that was our first level single leg finish right there. So what happens if you're not able to get your opponent down running the pipe, you're not in great position, your opponent's just very athletic, they're able to hop on one foot, and the running the pipe just isn't working. What's your second, what is the second thing that you're gonna do from your single leg? Well, this is a really core principle within with single leg finishes, and everywhere from elementary school to the highest Olympic level wrestling, this is the way that many people like to finish takedowns. So you're in on this single leg, and again, always you're moving this opponent forward. I'm not for this video circumstance, but always picture yourself moving your opponent forward. You try to run the pipe. This person didn't like. You weren't able to take them down, running the pipe. You're still in this good single leg position. And remember when I talked about changing this opponent's weight from this leg to this leg? Well, that's what we're going to do here. Again, we're in good position. What we're going to do, and pay attention to my footwork here, I'm going to be replacing my near foot with my far foot, and I'm going to bump my whole my body into my opponent's body to transition weight from this leg to this leg right here. And what that is going to do is make this leg really light and make it easier for me to elevate the leg. So I'm here, good position, heads up. I replace this foot with this foot, and I bump into the opponent. Whoops. We can cut that. So pay attention to my footwork here. I'm going to replace this foot with this foot. I'm going to bump into my opponent and make this leg light. Boom. And right now, all the weight is on this leg right here, which means this leg is going to be nice and light and easy for me to elevate. And see how I've created a shelf with my leg right here? I create the shelf, and then I go into an immediate squat. This hand transitions from behind the knee down to the heel, and then my whole body works to bring this leg up high. Right here, once I have this leg up, very quickly, this would be very quick in a live scenario, I'm going to put their foot in my armpit just like a foot lock. Boom, right here. One important note while you're doing this here is that you want to stay nice and high. You don't want to be down here with this. You want to stay nice and high, and again, you're always moving your opponent forward. Always moving your opponent forward. So you get to this position, and this is the best finishing position from a single leg. But you have this position, and one very easy way to go ahead and finish this, extremely low risk. You're moving your opponent around the whole time. Picture that. You're going to take your free hand, elbow high, and you're going to come in behind the knee right here. Once you're behind the knee, moving your opponent forward, all you're going to do is lower your level and twist your opponent down at an angle, similar to that running the pipe motion. Right here. Boom. And notice again, I didn't fall with my opponent. All I did was bring them down and twist them down. So let's say, for example, you get your opponent to this position, you're in great position, you're moving the opponent around. Maybe they're really tall, lanky, maybe they just have amazing balance, or they really know what they're doing defending here. What's your next finish that you can do from here? If I'm here and I'm trying to finish and I just can't get my opponent down, what's another good way to finish? And so this opponent defends this. What I'm going to be doing, and again, always picture that I'm moving my opponent forward, and as I'm moving them forward, I'm going to pay special attention to what they're doing hop-wise. You see how my opponent right here is hopping? You have to pay special attention to how they're hopping on their foot right here. And when I feel the timing is right, again, I'm going to go ahead and replace this foot with this foot, and I'm going to be looking straight up at the sky and try to make my own body go as high as possible. And at the same time, my free arm is going to be coming up under my opponent's knee. And you see how I'm looking towards his leg here? I'm not trying to do this straight on, but as I'm moving, I start to look away. And I actually end up looking up to the sky right here. and I make myself as high as possible. So again, we're moving our opponent, we're walking in, we start to look away and high, and at that same time, we're gonna go ahead and triple our opponent. So here's what it looks like live action. Right here. So one more time. We're in on the leg, we ran the pipe, we're able to get the pipe, set our opponent off bounds. We get our leg in the armpit right here. We come in, we try to take him down with this. We're not able to do so. We're still moving our opponent around. We're gonna go ahead, look away, come in, make our body as high as it can, and trip. Boom. Right there. And so that's another great way to go ahead and do a single leg finish when your opponent is pulling out all the stops, making it very difficult to finish. So the last single leg finish that I do want to teach you today is going to be from that original position when we're in on the single leg and our opponent is just giving us that really good defense, and we don't want to give up that single leg right away. There's one more finish that we can go to if you're receiving the right type of reaction. It's a really fun one. I personally love this because it looks really cool on camera. But we're going to be in on this single leg, and our opponent is going to go ahead and try to get their weight down on this leg, and they start to sprawl as soon as we have that single leg, which negates our ability to get the weight off of that foot and elevate that leg. But there's still something else we can do. So we're in on the single leg, and our opponent starts to get that foot down right here, and they start to sprawl out. And one special detail on this is that my hands are going to shift. So I'm going to go ahead and let my hands shift from being under the knee in good position here. As I feel this, pay attention, my hands start to shift up the leg, and I let this person sprawl out. And now my hands are locked around the crotch. Right here. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take one step into my opponent's body, and I'm going to go ahead and make myself really high and get a nice lifting motion going. Right here, boom. And all of a sudden, our opponent becomes very light. And from here, we just set them down for the finish. So a little bit faster, here's what it looks like. I'm here, we're moving, our opponent starts to get down, boom. I let my hands transition, I take a step in, and I go ahead and I finish that. So one more time. In on the leg, it starts to come down, I step in, and I lift. Right here, set our opponent down, nice and easy.